Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Sales Chalk Talk Show brought to you by Redcap Sales Coaching. I'm Hugh Little, your head sales wizard at Redcap Sales Coaching and Elite Sales Academy, where you can learn to make selling easy, fun, and profitable. If you're a chiropractor or run any kind of a service oriented business, you can learn how to serve more people and dramatically increase your conversion ratio, sales, and revenue. Stay tuned and you'll find out how you can take the first step to get started growing your business into the successful enterprise you really want it to be. I'm broadcasting today from Sebring, the very best part of Central Florida. My awesome co host, Gene McNaughton, is in the studio today. He's the president of GeoBear USA, America's newest premier ground engineering company. GeoBear helps customers improve the ground they live and work on. In his prior life, Gene ran a successful business growth consulting firm, having consulted more than 159 companies over 12 years. He's worked with brands such as T-Mobile, Panasonic, Targus, and one of the top 15 accounting firms in the United States, just to name a few. Today, Gene is aggressively building the U.S. branch of a global firm, GeoBear Global, building the U.S. location from scratch. He's the author of a tremendous book titled The Sales Edge. You can read a free chapter at thesalesedge.co, and the book is available at amazon.com. Hey, Gene, how's everything going out there at GeoBear?
Well, Hugh, as I've been documenting building this business from scratch, it seems like every week we've got new challenges and new opportunities. And I suppose any veteran entrepreneur would say, welcome to the club, because that's exactly what it is. It's a series of, oh my gosh, this is going great, we're going to do it, to, oh my goodness, I forgot about that. One of the challenges we're experiencing right now is unusual demand. It's forecasted that our business is going to be a lot heavier in terms of traffic and demand for our services in the summertime. And now we're faced with more leads and opportunities coming in than we have the physical ability to drive. And in most cases, when we engage with the customer, we're going to go on site and look at their home and go through a full inspection, which is a first-class way of which to handle our prospective customers. Now we're experimenting with, how can we, when we find these people that need our help, that are reaching out to us, but they're 2 hours away, they're 3 hours away, or maybe they're in a area where we don't have other appointments. Examples where maybe they're up in Bakersfield, that takes us 4 hours to get there, and that's a full day to drive for a single appointment that may or may not be the best fit for us. So we're in the process of how do we use cameras, people using their own phone camera, to run an effective meeting so we can gather the necessary information we need to put together a compelling presentation as to why we should do the work. And as I was reading through the show notes with Ed Barks and reading what we're going to talk about, I'm like, oh my gosh, serendipity shows up again. We get to talk about a subject matter that I'm personally challenged with right now. And let's see if we can get some insight from Ed and his brilliance.
Hey, you're invited to continue making Sales Chalk Talk a part of your learning in 2022 and beyond. Every week, you'll be able to get inside the heads of some of the most brilliant people in the areas of sales, marketing, leadership, business, and success. You can listen to all the past and future Chalk Talks at redcapsalescoaching.com/podcast. Or you can listen on iTunes, and we're just about everywhere else you can listen to podcasts too. On upcoming shows, we'll have a great lineup of guests coming up for you here on Chalk Talk. So stay tuned and learn more and more about how to build your business and your sales. Today, we're most honored to have author, speaker, and communication expert Ed Barks with us. Let me tell you just a little about Ed. Communication strategy consultant and author Ed Barks works with communications and government relations executives who counsel their C-suite leaders and with business and associations that need their communication strategies and messaging to deliver bottom line results. He's the author of 4 books: Reporters Don't Hate You, A+ Strategies for C-Suite Communications, The Truth About Public Speaking, and his newest book, Insider Strategies for the Confident Communicator, how to master meetings, presentations, interviews, and advocacy. Ed contributes to a variety of publications and is the former Speaking Sense columnist for the Washington Business Journal. More than 5,500 business leaders, association executives, scientists, government officials, entertainers, and other thought leaders can thank Ed for sharpening their communications edge. He's served as president of Barks Communications since founding it in 1997. He recently completed a 9-year tenure on the Board of Governors of the National Press Club and serves on the faculty of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Institute for Organization Management. An inside the Beltway veteran, Ed has spent more than 3 decades in Washington, D.C. He brings another critical perspective to his clients' communications need, that of a broadcaster and journalist. He knows firsthand the tricks and techniques of the reporting trade, thanks to a decade of experience in radio broadcasting. Ed's website is barkscom.com, and let me spell that for you. It's BARKSCOMM.com, and we'll tell you what's available to you there just a little later in the show. I think you can tell you're in for another fun, fascinating half hour. So sit down, buckle up, and hold on, folks, because here we go. Hey, Ed, welcome back to Chalk Talk.
Thank you, Hugh. It's good to be back with you.
Good to have you here. And we're going to talk about communication today and the way that business owners and salespeople communicate with potential clients has changed quite radically in the past few years, obviously. Tell us a little bit about those changes, positive and negative.
Well, you used the right word there, obviously. You know, the past, well, as we speak now, 2+ years, we've been in the midst of, waves of the pandemic, and that has necessitated much more remote communications, obviously. Now, there's some positives to that. We can at least see each other, even if we can't be in the same room with one another in every case. And it also makes it easier to reach out in many cases, where you can actually have a face-to-face conversation, albeit remote, but still you get to see somebody's face, their smiles, their laughs, things like that. So there are some positives to it. But on the negative side, obviously the biggest one is the lack of in-person contact. And I know so many of us have been missing that. So it's not the same as getting that physical handshake, as looking somebody in the eye, of getting the entire sense of their nonverbal communication and what they're saying. Another negative I would suggest is this obsession that a lot of us have gotten, and I'm this way too, with a need to schedule every conversation. Think of it. When is the last time somebody picked up the phone and called you and you hadn't had anything scheduled? So we're also missing some spontaneity as a result of this.
Yeah, that's a great point on the spontaneity. Now, I'm a person, Ed, and I'll take your coaching. I'm a person that if you want to meet with me, I need something scheduled on my calendar, because I live on my calendar, and I calendar my personal life as much as I do my professional life, so I can get things done that need to get done. So I'm running a business. I have employees. I've got 5 kids. I have a wife that everybody deserves equal focused attention. And then secondarily, if somebody calls me and I recognize their number and I'm not in the middle of something else going on, I may pick it up. But if I don't recognize the number, I'm not picking that phone call up. Is that how most people are?
I don't know the facts about that and the data behind that. I can tell you, though, that I'm the same way. And if it's, you get these robocalls that come in and it's just maybe a town or a city name connected to them, or worse yet, name unavailable. And yeah, I figure at that point, if somebody really wants to get in touch with me, they're going to leave a voicemail. And if they don't, well, I'm liable to put their number in a block category.
One thing I've done to alleviate that, and this is value for everybody listening, is I subscribe to a program called Calendly. And basically on that voicemail, if you call me right now, it'll say, "Hi, sorry I missed your call. I'm either away from my phone or I don't recognize your number. Please text me. Or if you'd like to book time with me, simply go to www.meetwithgene.com, and that'll find a slot of which you can schedule time." And that's done a good job of, people that are, salespeople don't usually make that move. But if it's a customer that was referred from somebody and I don't recognize that new customer's number, they can book a call, and we're back in business. So there's ways around it. There's so much good technology out there that's inexpensive that can be used to help you be more productive during your workday.
And I'll second your nomination of Calendly there, Gene. I use that as well. And in fact, on the front page of my website, if people do want to schedule a 20-minute conversation, I mean, that's where they go, and they can choose what's convenient for them.
Now, Ed, let's move on to communication, which is what you're an expert in. How do you feel about virtual versus in-person communication?
Well, as I kind of skirted around a few moments ago, in person is no question superior. But again, it's not always possible in a world where, we've got these waves of COVID keep coming back at us, it seems. In a case like that, remote is better than nothing, again, because we can see each other somewhat, but it's admittedly a substitute, and maybe not an A-grade substitute, but at least it's what we've got. And in fact, it's interesting, and Gene and Hugh, you may hear the same things from other people. I get a lot of people telling me that they actually prefer to deal with something like Zoom or Teams or Skype. And it's more convenient for them. They don't need to get in a car or hop on a subway and get somewhere else. It makes their day much easier. So, again, there are some positives to it as well. And Gene, you mentioned a term that caught my ear there. It's been coming into common use. And that's this notion of the word virtual for anything that's remote. And I give a little pushback on that, because there's nothing virtual about whether you're learning something, whether you're on a sales call, whether you're talking to a colleague to try to get some insights. I mean, that's real stuff. That is real learning and real selling and so forth. Nothing virtual about it. I tend to go with something like remote, online, a term like that.
Oh, that's so good. So good. Because it is. It's remote. It's live. And I do like the benefits of, if I, in the old days, was going to an appointment, you got to get ready. You got to get in your car, you got to drive, you got to get to your destination, park your car, sit in the lobby, wait for your appointment, run your appointment, then rinse and repeat. So maybe you had a 45-minute appointment, but it really was a 4-hour time suck of your day, when in reality, you can set the meeting at 10, show up on your screen, and you're going to talk about tricks on how to show up better on screen, I think, and get to the outcome. Whether you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. You can decide on action items. You can send an email to say, okay, great talking to you. You said you were going to do this, and I said I was going to do this, and our next meeting is going to be Tuesday. I've already booked that. And if you can stay in those rhythms and those habits, it can be highly, highly effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also interesting when you talked about, a 45-minute turning into a 4-hour, well, I'm going to call it an ordeal, although it may not be in every case, but let's say an extension of that 45 minutes. And it's also important to realize that even if you're having that meeting remote, that you still need to devote some time beyond that 45 minutes. You can't just log on at the top of the hour, if that's when your meeting starts, and assume that you're going to be in good shape. Number one, you've got to practice in the format in which you will meet, and if you're not familiar with, let's say, Zoom, if you typically use another service, then, sign on to Zoom, run a practice meeting, get a few friends or colleagues or family members to tune in with you, and get some notion of how the thing works. The bad news here is that we have been forced to become our own audio and video engineers. And I don't know about your listeners, but even though I'm an old radio broadcasting guy, I don't have those skills. I was never an engineer. I was the voice behind the microphone. So, there are things like that you have to pay attention to and prepare for, even in a remote environment. And of course, there's lots more of that in terms of nuances.
That's such a great point. What about planning and preparation before a video-based call?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it gets back to practicing beforehand so that you have a sense of what the environment is like. And then a couple of things that are important. I mentioned audio and video before. Those two are really keys to how you come across. And obviously, you need your message, you need your sales talk, whatever it may be that you're actually going to say, but you also have to look and sound effective. So in terms of your audio qualities, So many folks I know have had to depend on maybe the mic in their device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. Those things I mean, they're okay, but listening to somebody for an extended period on something like that is not ideal. So, and of course, you want to think about your listener and not yourself as the primary concern here. So I would encourage folks to get just a very simple external mic. And for instance, I've got one I'm speaking to you now on. It's like a broadcast quality mic, and it simply has a USB that plugs into my device, my computer. So, and that gives a whole lot better sound than if I were talking to you on a webcam mic, which would sound tinny. So that's one thing to think about with respect to audio. With respect to your video, there has been this fascination lately with these what they call on Zoom virtual. And again, I'm shuddering when I say that word, but virtual backgrounds. And I'm sure we've all seen the comedic effects of people who use those, and you kind of see either their hair or their ear or their chin or something fading into the background mysteriously. And it just, I mean, it's a wonderful idea, but the technology is not ready for prime time yet. So I would avoid those and just find a very comfortable, professional looking background that fits for you. For instance, I'm in my home office. I've got a bookcase behind me. I've got a couple of posters on the wall that are professionally related to what I do. So that's something to think about too. What do you look like? What do you sound like? Because you really want to go for quality there.
I'm the sales wizard. I can appear or disappear at any time.
Oh, another thing I should add too on the note on that same note is that this stuff isn't expensive. I mean, the mic is like under $100. If you get a good light, that's about the same price range. So it's not going to break the bank.
Yeah, and then the talk nowadays is about being authentic in sales conversations and presentations, rather than formal. I have a vendor that's approaching me to buy his services from him, and he shows up in a suit and tie every single time, and I know he's in a spare bedroom somewhere in his house. I'm like, you don't have to wear a tie. And he goes, no, I dress for success. So I don't know where I am on that one. I'm kind of impressed. He's a young guy, super hungry, but always has that tie buttoned up. And, I'm here in a, polo shirt and, grinding through my computer. But what's your take on, being authentic in sales conversations?
Yeah, I'm with your conversational colleague there. For instance, I've had over the last couple of weeks a series of media training engagements done remote, and every time I'm in my uniform, it's a suit, it's a shirt, it's a blue shirt, and it's a red base tie. And I don't do that because I'm comfortable with it. And the first few times I did that years ago, it felt kind of funny to be walking around home dressed in a suit and tie. But now it's become more habitual for me. It's not that I do it every day, but if I'm in an interview and it's a video interview, then I mean, you bet. And why do I do that? And my first and foremost reason is to show respect for those I'm talking or working with. That's what it's all about. If I'm a little uncomfortable, hey, tough, I can live with that. But for me, it's showing that respect. And I think the other thing that when you kind of dress up to think about how would you dress if this were an in-person meeting, and dress along those same lines, so that if you are feeling a little bit better, a little bit more professional about yourself when you dress like that, which I think is the case with most of us, then you're probably going to perform better in that professional situation.
Excellent advice.
Folks, we'll be right back with our very special guest, communications expert, author, and speaker, Ed Barks. And we'll talk some more about how you can be more successful in communicating through your public speaking. We want to urge you to visit Ed's website at barkscom.com. You'll find tons of helpful, fascinating blogs under the C-Suite Blueprint tab. They go all the way back to 2013 and cover a variety of subjects about communication. You can join Ed's communications community and receive a complimentary copy of his newest book, Insider Strategies for the Confident Communicator: How to Master Meetings, Presentations, Interviews, and Advocacy. when you join at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/comms community insider book. You'll also receive monthly strategy emails. You can arrange to work with Ed and receive mentoring in public speaking, media training, and advocacy. You can call Ed to discuss your situation or complete a form on the site to connect with him. You can check out Ed's incredibly great books, Reporters Don't Hate You, A-plus Strategies for C-Suite Communications, The Truth About Public Speaking, and Insider Strategies for the Confident Communicator, How to Master Meetings, Presentations, Interviews, and Advocacy. You'll find links where you can purchase the books from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. As you can tell from the first part of the show, Ed is an accomplished, in-demand public speaker. So when you're planning your next live or virtual corporate or association event, contact Ed and talk with him about doing your keynote. Just think about the effect Ed's expertise and ability will have on your audience. He'll entertain, educate, and inspire them, and they'll say it was one of the best events ever when Ed is your speaker. Ed can do that for you. So check out Ed's website at barkscom.com right after the show, or you can even pause the recording and check it out right now and take advantage of all the good stuff there. I promise you'll be really glad you did. Now, if you leave to check out his website, be sure you come back and listen to the rest of the show, though, because Ed and Jean have some more great stuff for you. We're back with our very special guest, communications expert, author, and speaker, Ed Barks. Again, his website is barkscom.com.
Now, what are some ideas and strategies people can use when they're using programs like Zoom, Google Meet, and Teams calls? What can they do to be more effective on those? We're on those things all day long. What are some little things that most people don't think of that they should and could be doing?
Well, I'd encourage everyone to sign on at least 5 minutes ahead of time. If your meeting starts at noon, get on there at the latest at 11:55. And if you have to wait and, watch a wheel spin and say, wait for the host to let you in, that's okay. That's no big deal. But sign on 5 minutes. I'll tell you, personal pet peeve of mine is when you go to perhaps a presentation of some sort online and it gets to, let's say it starts at that noon hour, and it gets to noon and the moderator says all of a sudden, oh, let's give another few minutes for folks to log on. Well, no, I'm sorry. If you didn't have the respect to show up on time and a little bit early, and as I like to say, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late, then, that shouldn't, you should not be punishing those who arrive on time. Is the bottom line. Another thing to keep in mind is, to the extent you can, to keep any noise in the background muted. This includes things like kids and dogs. I know it's hard. Hey, a lot of us are still working from home, but though I've been doing this for 25 years, so it's not new to me. But to the extent you can, keep the noise down in the background. Another thing with respect to your camera on your device is, and this is really important, position that camera so it is level with your eyes. So if you need to, set a monitor or a laptop or a tablet on maybe a stack of books or a box, hey, that's okay. Nobody's going to see that in the background. But nobody wants to see your ceiling. They're not interested in that, and nor certainly do they want to view up your nose. So position that camera so it's level with your eyes. And as you do that, look into the camera. Do not look at your screen, because that's going to skew your eye contact. Now, I know it's just natural that if you've got the camera, at one level and you've got your screen a little below that, it's just natural. You want to look at the person you're talking to when you are talking, but to look effective and to look professional, you want to keep your eye contact straight with that camera. So those are a few things to think of.
I love it. I love it. There's so many little tidbits that people miss.
Well, Ed, it has been terrific having you back on the show with us again. And before we let you go, I'm going to ask you another question. It's one that you answered a year and a half ago. My guess is that maybe your answer will be somewhat different. And if it's not, it's okay. It's one we ask all of our guests on every show. And the question is based on one of my favorite books, The One Thing by Gary Keller of Keller Williams Real Estate. If you could give our listeners just one piece of advice that you consider to be the most important in gaining success in their businesses, their sales, their relationships, their lives, what's the one thing, Ed?
Hugh, it's sustained professional development with regard to their communications endeavors. It's not something you could get under your belt in one fell swoop. You've got to, over time, commit to developing your communication skills. Not everything needs to be formal. Not everything needs to be an ultimate time consumption device. But you need to find ways to keep getting better over time. So that sustained professional development is absolutely critical.
Well, folks, here at the Sales Chalk Talk Show, we believe in taking action. So go to Ed's website at barkscom.com. Check out the great blogs under the C-Suite Blueprint tab. Join Ed's communications community and receive a complimentary copy of his newest book, Insider Strategies for the Confident Communicator: How to Master Meetings, Presentations, Interviews, and Advocacy. When you join at bit.ly/comms community insider book, you'll receive monthly strategy emails as well. Arrange to work with Ed and receive mentoring in public speaking, media training, and advocacy. Get all of Ed's incredibly great books, Reporters Don't Hate You, A-plus Strategies for the C-Suite Communications, The Truth About Public Speaking, and Strategies for the Confident Communicator. Contact Ed and arrange to have him speak at your next live or virtual corporate or association event. Take massive action. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. Go to Ed's website at barkscom.com right away. I promise you'll be really glad you did. I also promised to give you some information about how to increase your business and sales. If you'd like to start scaling your sales and revenue, you can talk with me and have a free, individualized sales roadmap prepared. Just go to redcapsalescoaching.com and click a button on any page to schedule your free, valuable, no pressure session. You'll find a ton of free information at redcapsalescoaching.com that will help you tremendously in increasing your sales. Read a free chapter of Gene's book at thesalesedge.co and get your copy of his awesome book, The Sales Edge, at amazon.com. Ed, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us and share all this great stuff with us and with our listeners. Let's get you back on the show sooner than a year and a half this next time.
It's a deal, Hugh. Thank you.
All right, Gene, what parting thoughts do you have for us today?
Well, Ed dropped some really good information on us. Some of it are very smart reminders, and to some of you that might be new. One is, if you get on every call 5 minutes early, check your technology. Secondly is make sure the person that you're meeting with understands the technology. Maybe even ask them if it's appropriate for them to get there 5 minutes early, or let them know you'll be there 5 minutes earlier for a check. Looking into the camera when you're speaking versus looking down at your slides or the graphic that the other person is looking for is critical. And manage that darn background. There's nothing worse than, back in go back 2 years ago when everybody had to move to virtual meetings because of the COVID situation. And I remember getting on calls with people and their background was a shelf that was messy and papers all over the place. And I'm like, do I really even want to work with this person? Now you can buy a $20, felt, screen that you put on your wall behind your desk or behind your chair to just keep it simple. You want people focused on you and focused on the message that you're delivering. Any distraction from that could cause them to miss a very important point, or it could cause them to tune out when you're going right into your best value proposition. So you control everything it is they see. You control how they hear what it is you're saying. And most people pay very little attention to that. Based on what Ed's saying and what we're saying here, every little thing you do matters. They're making first impressions about you if it's your first call, way beyond what we can even begin to measure. So take advantage of those little tips and go get his books. If you really want to dive hard, go to his website and get some books.
Well, folks, that's about it for today's Sales Chalk Talk. We'll be back soon with another awesome Chalk Talk for you. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, make it fun and make it profitable. So long, Ed. So long, Gene. So long, everybody. And good selling.